Okay, so we all know about dating apps and those endless connections that just fizzle out. But what if I told you there's a whole different kind of matchmaking happening online? It has nothing to do with swiping right. We're about to step into what's basically a digital tent revival, where thousands of people gather to pray for a life partner, all led by a charismatic spiritual guide. So the big question is, how does something like faith actually go viral?
Well, the main goal for everyone in this community is to find what they call a kingdom spouse. And you gotta forget the whole idea of a soulmate here. This is different. This is about finding a partner who is, ordained by a higher power. It's about a union that's treated like a spiritual covenant, a real sanctuary from all the temporary stuff in modern dating.
And the guide leading this whole journey? A creator who goes by the name Mother Blaze on Fire. And her welcome message, it really says it all. Welcome you to the Fireverse, with the fire and the globe emojis. Right off the bat, you get this amazing mix of ancient faith with the language of today's internet.
Which brings us to the big question we're going to tackle. A revival meeting traditionally is this incredibly powerful in-person experience. So how on earth do you recreate that same energy, that deep connection, when everyone's just looking at a screen? Let's actually break down how this digital revival is built. First things first, we have to understand the space itself. The creator doesn't just call this a YouTube channel. No, she's framed it as the virtual revival tent. And just like any physical space, it has its own set of rules, its own rituals.
So the host is Mother Blaze on Fire, and the topic isn't just some vague inspirational talk. It's incredibly specific, almost like a practical workshop, praying your kingdom spouse in. This isn't just about feeling good. It's about using faith as a tool to achieve a very tangible, deeply desired goal in life.
But before you can get into the really deep stuff, you have to set the atmosphere. In a physical church, you've got the music, the lighting, the architecture, it all works together. So how do you create a sacred digital atmosphere when all you have is a browser window?
Well, engagement starts immediately with a poll. But this isn't just to get comments. The question itself, what allows the enemy into our homes the most, is designed to make you stop and look inward. And by asking viewers to literally type their answer in the comments, it flips a switch. You go from being a passive watcher to an active participant in this big, collective ritual.
Sound is another huge piece of the puzzle. The creator uses something called solfeggio frequencies. These are specific audio tones that are believed to have spiritual and even healing properties. For example, 528 Hz is called the miracle tone, and in these belief systems, it's associated with love and even DNA repair. The whole goal is to literally tune the digital environment and the viewer's own mindset for what's coming next. So once that atmosphere is perfectly set, we get to the absolute core teaching of the entire session, and it all centers on this one powerful practice they call tarrying.
And that practice is tarrying. Now, this definition is so important. This is not passive waiting, like you're just standing at a bus stop hoping for the best. It is an active state. It's this determined, focused form of prayer where the whole point is to stay in that spiritual place until you feel a sense of peace, until you get your answer.
So what does tarrying actually look like in practice? Let's break down the prayer structure that the community is taught. It's all framed as a prayer of persistence.
The prayer is laid out like a journey, really, in 4 steps. It starts not with asking for something, but with surrender, surrendering to a higher timing. Then it moves to refinement, which is about asking for your own personal growth while you wait. The 3rd step is about building resolve, to fight off loneliness. And finally, it ends with a prayer of protection for that future spouse you haven't even met yet. It's a really holistic process when you think about it.
This quote, man, this gets right to the emotional heart of this entire movement. It's a flat-out rejection of what followers see as the temporary, convenient, disposable nature of modern dating. They're not just holding out for a person, they are holding out for an old-fashioned promise, a true covenant.
So, after the teaching and the prayer, you get to the climax of any revival, the altar call. That's the moment the whole community comes together to make a public commitment. But how do you come forward when you're sitting alone in your room? Welcome to the online altar call. The way they translate these rituals from physical to digital is it's kind of brilliant. The congregation in a building becomes a virtual gathering on YouTube. A spoken amen is replaced by the click of a like button. And the altar becomes the comment section, which is reframed as a prayer circle. It's a fascinating, direct adaptation of a ritual that's centuries old.
And that feeling of community gets solidified with calls to action just like this one. Asking someone to type fire with a fire emoji isn't just about trying to game the YouTube algorithm. It's a digital version of call and response. It takes hundreds of people watching alone and turns them into a congregation, all affirming the exact same feeling at the exact same time.
And here it is, the altar call itself, just stated plainly. The comment section is officially designated as a prayer circle. This simple act of reframing takes a public forum, which we all know can be full of arguments, and turns it into a sacred space for vulnerability, for sharing testimonies, and for communal support.
So, when you step back, you realize we've just seen every single piece of a traditional revival, meticulously rebuilt for the digital age. And it leaves us with one last pretty big question to think about. As more and more of our communities move online, what happens to faith, to intimacy, and to our sense of connection when the physical altar gets replaced by a comment section?